This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post, coming to you from the Fort Hall School of Government in Nairobi, Kenya. In this show, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. We also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 6th of July, 2022, and I am Miss K.
I am JM.
And I am GK. In case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, Wetangula linked to ballot printer. In the Standard, the high cost of presidential spat. In the Star, revealed Uhuru men who will steer handover. In the People Daily, Raila hunts in Central Region. This is K.
Well, today we will ask a few critical questions with regard to the 2022 election. And I'll start with, could there be a scheme at play within UDA to have the 2022 presidential election nullified on account of a legal technicality? We ask this question for 3 reasons. Reason 1. The procurement of Inform Lycos Holdings, the company printing the ballot papers, was cancelled by the Public Procurement Administration and Review Board in September last year. The Procurement Board then gave IEBC 30 days to redo the tender process. IEBC did not redo the tender. Instead, they chose to sign a contract with Lycos Holdings and challenge the Procurement Review Board's decision in court. Reason 2. According to today's Daily Nation, Moses Wetangula wined and dined 3 Greek men in January 2021 under the pretext that they were discussing investment opportunities in Kenya. 9 months later, in October 2021, the same 3 men won a multi-billion shilling tender to supply ballot papers for this year's election through their company, Inform Lycos Holdings. Why do you think the Public Procurement Administration and Review Board cancelled the tender for the supply of the ballot papers? Was it because they had intelligence on the Wetangula connection? Reason 3. Last month, Chief Justice Martha Koome issued a notice to IEBC and the public that if IEBC did not correct the 2017 electoral issues, the Supreme Court would nullify the election. Now, the 2017 Supreme Court nullified the election for 2 reasons. Illegalities like undue influence and intimidation, and irregularities in the transmission and announcing of results. I went to school in Kiambu. One specific irregularity was the lack of security features in 56 out of the 290 Forms 34B that were used to declare the final results of the election. Now, whose responsibility is it to print and input security features? In this election, that responsibility falls with Inform Lycos Holdings. That is their formal contractual brief. But we must ask, do they have an informal brief? And if they do, what is it? No matter what happens on August 9th, a petition will be filed challenging the results of the election. You can also count on the fact that there will be errors in the 2022 election. No system is foolproof. But the contested contract by Inform Lycos Holdings to print the ballot papers, as well as their connection with Moses Wetangula, will feature in the petition. My final question is this. If the Supreme Court were to nullify the 2022 election on a legal technicality, who would benefit? And could that beneficiary also be the initiator of the crime?
Like that. We must question why IEBC is behaving suboptimally.
Absolutely. And you know,
Yes.
there's something called the Bukusu Mafia. What's a Bukusu? Wetangula and this IEBC chair, CHEBUKATI. There's a connection there. A connection that we must interrogate.
Indeed.
And if things go a certain way in the election, we will revisit.
We must
revisit. Now, today, I would like to tell a short story about the Gema Nation and how it is deceiving William Ruto. The story is about the wolf and the malnourished dog. Once upon a time, a savage wolf, while looking for a meal, stumbled upon a dog in the village. And it happened to be a very malnourished and bony dog. Now, ordinarily, the wolf would not have considered this puny, weightless creature for a meal. But since he was desperately hungry, he figured the dog would be better than sleeping hungry. So he began to edge towards the dog. Now, the dog was a very clever one. And he said to the wolf, "Mr. Wolf, sir, your lordship, may I remind you how unpleasant it would be to eat me in my current state. Look at my ribs. I am nothing but skin and bone. But let me tell you something in private. Let me whisper something in your ear. In a few days, my master will give a wedding feast for his only daughter. You can guess how fine and fat I will grow on the scraps from the table. Then that will be the perfect time to eat me. You will enjoy me properly. Now, the wolf could not help but think of how nice it would be to have a fine, fat dog to eat instead of the scrawny animal before him. So he went away, promising to return. Some days later, the wolf came back for the promised feast. He found the dog in his master's yard and asked him to come out and be eaten. Sir, the dog said with a grin, I shall be delighted to have you eat me. I'll be out of here as soon as the gatekeeper opens the door. But here's the catch. The gatekeeper was a huge guard dog whom the wolf knew by painful experience to be very unkind to wolves of his kind. So he decided not to wait and made off as fast as his legs could carry him. Now, this is a story of William Ruto and the Gema Nation. Like the wolf in 2017, Ruto pulled a fast one on Uhuru. He approached the Gema Nation through the back door, turned the population on their leader, Uhuru Kenyatta that is, and told the Kikuyus, like Absalom told the Israelites, Uhuru has been a terrible leader to you people. I can be a better leader. That's what he said to the Kikuyus. Wow. Let me take you to paradise in 2022. Let me take you to Canaan. Just vote for me and you will see. You will all become rich. We'll all be rich. Kikuyus, being like the clever dog in this story, said to Ruto, by all means, sure thing, we are fully behind you. But what they did say to themselves is, Kula kwa Ruto, Kura kwa Uhuru, and by extension, Kura kwa Martha, the next person that would take over from Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, we're about 32 or so days to the election, and William Ruto has come back to the mountain calling for his votes, and he's asking Kikuyus, where are you? He's doing a roll call of all the 4.6 million Kikuyu voters who are going to show up, and he's asking them, where are you? But look at what has happened since Martha Karua was announced as the running mate to Raila. Of the 4.6 million, at least 1/3 is going to go to William Ruto, 1.5 million. And at that rate, and also at the rate at which Wajakoya's candidature is growing, he's going to hemorrhage another 200,000 or so Kikuyus. And so what's the lesson here in conclusion? William Ruto, do not depend on the promises of those who only wish to deceive you. You can never buy a Kikuyu. You can only rent one.
Yeah. So, just 34 days till August 9th, Election Day, and the Star newspaper has taken a glimpse at the transition period. The Assumption of Office squad, we are told, is full of Uhuru's men, and it will be in charge of the transition to the 5th president of Kenya. Now, Ruto has told us that because they are Uhuru's men, there will be mischief. But this is nobody's fault but Ruto's. Ruto's Assumption of Office strategy would not look so bleak had he not made so many enemies over the past 8 years. William Ruto literally translated his role of vice president. The word vice is not only a governmental title, it's the opposite of goodness and virtue. His time in office has been troubling, to say the least, and the man has no allies left anywhere.
That's right.
Like we have all come to understand, Ruto's ultimate mistake was to assume that he was the co-president, that Uhuru's absolute authority, privilege, and favor extended to him, just as it covered the president. Now, a good politico knows that regime changes are tricky things, and they require political godfathers. Uhuru had one in Michuki and Kibaki, and Raila has one in Uhuru. Your political godfather must obviously be well connected, but crucially, they must be tethered well to the state, covertly or overtly. They engage in continuity government exercises at some level.
Unajua mimi sina shida na mtu. Nilisaidia huyu mtu akitendawili mpaka akakuwa prime minister. Nimesaidia rafiki yangu Uhuru Kenyatta mpaka amekuwa rais. Tumunasikia hata mimi alikuwa karibu atoroke. Nikamlazimisha.
Now, Ruto laments that he helped everyone get to the presidency, but yet nobody wants to return the favor. Perhaps he ought to reflect on that. Ruto could have learned important lessons from studying other vice presidents or deputy presidents around the world. Dick Cheney comes to mind.
My favorite.
As one of the most brilliant bureaucratic infighters in history.
Yes.
Cheney exploited loopholes in American democracy to grow his power and influence exponentially.
Absolutely.
But now that D-Day is drawing closer, Ruto is getting desperate. He's trying to paint himself as anti-establishment, and he will want to play politics with any mundane thing that will happen between now and the election. It started with IEBC and the vote register, and it is why now Ruto will call this Assumption of Office Committee biased and unfair. He will want the Hustler Nation to cry foul and rise up in anger. But what he won't tell the masses is that this is just empty rhetoric. Should he make it to the presidency, there's actually an Assumption of the Office President Act, whose Section 8, number 2, states that a president-elect would be able to nominate 3 people to the Assumption of Office Committee, and they may cause the chairperson to call for a meeting to consider important matters of an urgent nature regarding the assumption of office by the president-elect. So this one has not stuck. What's next, Mr. DP? What is next?
What is next?
So guys, we had those 4 headlines.
Yes.
I want to go with the Daily Nation.
I agree.
I agree.
Purely for lifting the veil of ignorance. If there is
Yes.
a rectangular link
Yes. Bukusu
If
Mafia.
the Bukusu Mafia is at play in our election, they need to be exposed.
there you have it. Daily Nation gives us a winning headline. Thank you for joining us. Find us on YouTube, but also find us on TV on GoTV, Panquita Air, and Star Times. Find me on social media. I'm on Twitter at Samasana.
Find me on TikTok, Maina wa Kagema.
And find me on Twitter at J Kambuni.